Welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles, dedicated to human liberation. We make our spiritual home in the Old Stone Church, which was hand-built by the African-American Antioch East Baptist Church, and we acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African-Americans from the area, and we honor them in the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all Indigenous people. I am Cindy LaHoo. I will be your facilitator this morning. Yay! Thank you. I'm going to read an excerpt from Rest is Resistance. How to Dream Your Way Toward a Radically Decolonized Future by Tricia Hershey. The dream aspect of our rest work is deeply tied to the metaphysical and spiritual. It is a time to be free from the confines of linear and grounded reality. The idea of being trapped in the box of the practical must be suspended during your deprogramming. Grind culture thrives on us remaining in our heads, unable to allow the technology of our divine bodies to soar and develop. There is massive knowledge and wisdom lying dormant in our exhausted and weary bodies and hearts. I believe the dreaming part of our unraveling will be the most challenging because it goes against all we have been socialized to maintain. The pace and disconnection of grind culture. White supremacy thinking has taught us there is only a binary, and the rigidity of this type of thinking keeps us available to the toxic systems, but unable to inhabit the divinity of our true selves. This is a time to simply stop and feel. Is there anyone who's here for the first time, maybe second time, who'd like to rise and introduce themselves? Tell us how you came to be here today.
Or who hasn't been here for a long time.
Or who hasn't been here in a long time and would like to say hello.
Stand up.
Stand.
Well, it's not my first or second time, and I haven't been here since COVID because I go to UVCA, and I live nearby, and I like your congregation, and I also know that Marty was doing a sermon, so I was drawn here today to hear her. Wonderful.
What's her
Cindy
name?
Hoffner, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear what.
Cindy Hoffner.
Cindy Hoffner. Welcome. I'm glad you're here today. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Rhonda. This is Richard. We have been here before over the years, but not for a long time. And like Cindy, not since before COVID. And honestly, we really liked this place, but we liked Marty especially, so that's why we're here.
Welcome. I'm glad all of you are here today. I haven't been in a bit myself for many different reasons, but glad to be here today.
We're glad to be
Who has a birthday or anniversary and would like to get sung to this morning? Anybody? I know at least one birthday. Come on down, Mary. We want to sing to you. Today is actually Mary's birthday.
Was a ride from Cindy Lou Who.
Sometimes when I come, I find Bill and Mary on the side of the road.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mary. Happy birthday to you.
Anyone else? Carol.
Well, it's not my birthday, but today is Lynn Tippett's birthday. She's been coming recently with her son. I thought for sure she'd be here today, but she's not.
Well, if she comes late, we can.
Okay,
If
good.
it's not in the middle of the sermon, we can maybe. But happy birthday, Lynn, in spirit. Jan?
Well, it was my dad's birthday several days ago. I'm not sure how old he would have been right now. He died several years ago. And my nephew, who has the same birthday as my dad. So it was a good one.
Anyone else? There's a bunch of December birthdays in here. A little later in the month for you, Jan.
Sorry?
I said your birthday's a little later in the month.
Christmas Eve.
Well, we'll sing another congregational song, so please stand if you're willing and able. Number 3 in the pink book, We Shall Overcome.
Yeah.
That song always resonates with me, and I know how I'm doing emotionally by how I can sing or not sing that song. Sometimes I find it very hard to believe that we will overcome. And some days I have much optimism and can sing it really deeply. And sometimes I just start crying and can't sing at all. So
Yeah.
at least I'm still here. I have a quote. All the quotes today are from Marti in anticipation of her speech. Reading from The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. Sleep is a fundamental human need that must be respected. It is one of humanity's great unifiers. It binds us to one another and our ancestors, to our past and our future. Now, in the pre-COVID days, this is the time of our service where we tell the children to go downstairs, and Shay just came. He's not quite a child anymore, like mine aren't, but I don't see any young people, and I know that any other young people, he's young, but I know that our current plan is, if you want childcare, to arrange it in advance.
I have a little request if it's okay, because we were delayed, we just walked in and missed the birthdays. Tomorrow, and Trey and I look forward to this every year, having the birthday for his son here. Tomorrow is actually my birthday.
Happy birthday to Sanjay.
Shall we sing?
Since we had 2 birthday songs, we'll do something a little different. For how about y'all can do tambourine? God, you see, God, and then you were born.
Angels got together and you were born. That's the way you were born. Gift of you.
Marcia, it's time for fellowship minister moment. Marcia Mitchner.
Hey everybody, good to see you. Glad that you're here today. This is the holiday season, and I had sent out a
an email that talked about our holiday giving for this year. And I just wanted to clarify a little bit. I personally had picked the two things that we were going to give to. One is the Atlanta Food Bank, because I think that there's no greater need right now for those that don't have enough, more than food. The other thing is, I work with a woman who is friends with a couple of other women, and for the last number of years, they have taken their own personal time and energy to collect items, and they then go out into neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods, and they hand out holiday packages. It can be clothes or food, any kind of item, and I made a list there in the email of items. So this is one of those where you know exactly where it's going. There's no middle person there to take anything out. Everything that you donate will go directly to someone who is in need. So that is why I chose that particular organization. They don't get any kind of outside money, so from United Way or anything else. It's all just donations. So please, I hope that you will look at that list and be generous. I did put a box in the back underneath the clock, and it's a small box, but I expect that I'm going to be bringing in a bigger box because I know that you're just going to have it overflowing with all kinds of things, and I really appreciate your generosity and thinking about being grateful for what we have, because I look around the room and I know that each of us has so much, and we have so much to be thankful for, and there's so many that have so little. So please look at that list and do what you can to help, okay?
Marcia, if somebody wants to give you money, I'm assuming you take cash or checks. Do you do any other?
Sure. If it's
not
comfortable for you to go out and shop, then you could make a check, make it out the first E, but make sure you put on the little line in the lower left corner that it is for holiday giving. Or if you want it to go to the food bank, put Atlanta Food Bank. So that we would then, you could make the check directly to the food bank and put it in the collection plate if you wanted to do that, and we'll gather them all and put them together. Or you can write the check to us and we will write a check to the food bank or to buy gifts for this other group.
Will they take gently used clothing?
Yes.
I've got a closet full of old dresses that I haven't worn since I...
Yes, gently used clothing is perfectly fine. I've done a lot of things myself that somehow or other I just don't seem to fit in anymore. So those are the kind of things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. In our service, one of the most precious to me times is our 5 minutes of silence. We take 5 minutes to sit, meditate, pray, or do nothing at all, which is sometimes the only time any of us get all week. And now is that time, so sit quietly for 5 minutes and I will wake you with a chime.
You are here today. It might be a good one to include someday in our white book. It's by John Cromer. He's a big union activist, but he also writes some really nice anthems. And this is one of his universal anthems. I think you'll like this. It's called Peace of the Mountain. Peace, not a piece of the mountain. Give us the peace of the mountain. Give us the patience of the tree. Give us the open arms of the heavens. Give us the passion of the sea. Teach us the music, the rhythm. Just the kindness of the breeze. Teach us the harmony of the rainbow. Teach us to sing like the wind in the trees. Show us the love as deep as the ocean. Show us the secrets of the stone. Show us the courage in a mother's heart. Show us the wisdom that's in our bones. Give us the peace of the mountain.
Mick McKinney. Reverend Marti Keller describes her big life goal as beholding life and bearing prophetic witness to what she discovers. She has done this through her short verse poetry, her creative nonfiction essays and blogs, her critical and immersion journalism, her justice advocacy for women and girls, and her 25 years of parish and community Unitarian Universalist ministry. Marti has shared publicly that this today will be her last sermon, that she's going to move to using her time to create more of that poetry and essay work and other forms of art, verbal and otherwise, and that she will be welcome to revise some of her old sermons in the future, but we are all very honored to be here. Her message today is titled, take a deep breath, Rest as Resistance. What do a word of the year, the December holidays, and International Human Rights Day have to do with liberating power of rest? Welcome, Reverend Marti Keller.
Actually, I have one more time in LJ, Georgia. This is my last time in this capacity here for you, and I want to thank you. It's been a lot of years and a long time, and I just love being with you. You'll enjoy it. When Mary was handing out the orders of service and greeting people, as she does so well, I said, well, you know, who's coming today? And she said, well, it's a nice day, so maybe not a lot, although quite a few came. And she said, it's not quite the holidays yet. And I want to disagree with you. And I'm like, I'm already tired. Okay. Also, you can listen. You will hear Word of the Year, December holidays, and International Human Rights Day at some point. Just keep your ears open. I did manage to get them all in. holidays when I got an email from my healthcare provider, Kaiser Permanente, on December 1st, and it said, how to remain calm during the holidays. And then I opened up the message, and it was some kind of banal thing about, I don't know, breathing and stretching and stuff. But it was interesting to me that there was no counsel to just stop doing some of the things that cause you not to be calm. And also, where was resting more? Where was sleeping better? Where was napping? Not I believe, and you're free as you always are to argue with me, that this Christmas and Halloween 2022 turned into kind of a spookmas. It seemed to me that right after Halloween, November 1st, I began to see a lot of Christmas, and the Halloween decorations didn't come down. Some of them were still up. Like, so you saw the evergreen wreath, and then you saw all the pumpkins that are rotting, and people going on the neighborhood thing asking how you stop them from rotting or what you do, and somebody said give them to the chickens. But don't give them to the rats. We've had that happen. It's not pleasant. And then we still had the skeletons and the tombstones up, along with the Warnock recall signs. So anyway, and in our town of Decatur, Georgia, the street decorations went off, which were the same boring, stupid ones they've had since we moved there. And in Kroger, there are, you will look, no, they're gone now. In the first week or so after Halloween, there were rows of commingling candy. So you get the candy corn, and you also get chocolate bells. And then you have the packages of cheap glass balls and hangers. And I don't know if you checked it out, the already tired-looking trees stacked in the front. Can you imagine what they look like now, or for God's sake, December 24th? I actually come from California, where we didn't really buy our tree, can you imagine, until right before Christmas. We learned the first year we were here, if we didn't get it the day after Thanksgiving, we were out of luck. So already we were starting pretty early. And then there was a real indication that the holidays were with us, Christmas in particular, when I got on an email thread with some of my UU colleagues who have a very perverse game they play. You want to hear about it? So every Christmas holiday, starting around November 1st, they start listening to carols, which is cool, on Pandora and stuff. Not a day before, but like November 1st. The first time you ever hear Little Drummer Boy in any version, you're out of the competition. And so, like, usually by the second day, there's half of them that are already out because, you know, you hear them all and stuff. So I deliberately did not listen to Pandora for about 2.5 weeks. I'm already out. So it seems to me that perhaps the reason why a few nights ago I, bolt upright in my bed, started to recite the lines of The Night Before Christmas. Because I think I was already preset to think it was almost Christmas Eve, please. Okay. And so I started to say the words in my head. You all know them. It was written by Clement Clark Moore for his children in December 1822. That's how old it is. And so the night before Christmas, you can recite with me, and all through the house, the creatures were stirring and hiding in the house. The children were nestled all snug in their bed, while visions of girls dancing in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my hat, and just settled down. No. Who said settle down? I'm going to shame you. Settle our brains for a long winter's nap. So when I got through saying that, I was thinking like, oh, this is weird. I haven't done this in years. I said, sugar plum, who cares? I don't think I've ever had a sugar plum. Have you? I mean, it's nothing I would be interested in. But long winter nap? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Long winter nap. Because these are my memories of napping. My parents did not nap on Christmas Eve. How many of you have had kids or were kids ever thought your parents napped on Christmas Eve? They were up all night transporting piles of reindeer and Santa rat presents from closets all over the house to under our tree. Our Jewish Unitarian tree with no star on the top and elk horns instead. Me and my siblings, my 3 brothers, up all night, every Christmas Eve. My brother Doug in particular, who was always in an agitated state, in a state of high anticipation, which continued throughout our entire childhood. And I think well into our young adulthoods, perhaps beyond, when we would continue to gather for Christmas Eve. So I don't know if you remember doing that, but I remember shouting out every 5 minutes all night long, "Is it time yet? Isn't it time yet?" Yeah, and it's not time to wake up, because who was sleeping? It was time to go down and get the present. Mia naps. A very sad history. Christmas Eve or no, I was never a good sleeper. In fact, I was a terrible napper. Like the preschoolers in the family daycare where I sent my children and also worked part-time, there was that kid who would lie restlessly on their mat on the hard floor, eyes open for the entire hour, and then have huge late afternoon meltdowns from his lack of rest. And then there were Sundays for me on the UC Berkeley campus when I was a freshman. I was 18 years old, while my 30,000 fellow students napped the afternoon away after those big noontime lunches they served, and then there was nothing in the evening. So they would have the big lunches and crash and get up at 4 o'clock. Do you think I did that? Oh no. I volunteered to be the Sunday editor of our campus newspaper, working all afternoon to the accompaniment of the Sprout Plaza drummers, who were not napping. They were just doing that drumming thing. Some of you really like, why, Richard, you really like that? Then working all night to put the Monday paper to bed. That is what they call it. You put a paper to bed. Only a very few years later, as a very young mother with 2 small children, instead of napping when they napped, how many of you did that, napped when your kids napped? Using that precious couple of hours, if I was lucky, to mop the floor, to run loads of laundry, meet deadlines for the theater and film reviews and other articles I wrote, is what they call a low-paid, by-the-piece stringer for daily and local newspapers and weekly newspapers, or working on my book that was contracted, ironically, on parenting, how to be a good parent, no matter how exhausted I was from the broken sleep night before. What my husband Richard remembers from theater nights, the nights that I had to go to the theater and then write a review, is that I would come home and go straight to bed, and then get up at some ungodly hour, that's what he called it, some ungodly hour, and in his words again, pound out my review in some ratty sweatshirt, my words. By the time we were married, I had taken a day job as well, and I had been a single mother for 6 years. So no sooner had I finished the writing assignment, and he took it into the Pacific Sun or whatever for me, bless his heart, I would shower, I would dress, I would get in the car for what was a close to 2 hours each way commute to the Planned Parenthood that I worked for a dozen years so far away. The wee hours of the morning work schedule resumed not so many years later when we moved to Atlanta, when I became a minister, again on deadline. Richard again describes watching me research my sermons or talks or whatever we call them here for days, even weeks, and then go to bed, as I did last night, at around 7 or 8 p.m., and get up when he went to bed, like I did this morning, knock it out, and then drive to whatever service I was leading like I did today. And occasionally, when our youngest son, Ben, was staying with us, he would come home from a late night as I was up writing, crossing paths in the early hours before dawn. Truth be told, he was well into his 30s when he was still doing that, coming home late and crossing paths. Coming home and after I did the sermon, and trying to join my thousands of clergy colleagues who collapse on Sunday afternoons and nap the afternoon away. Totally unsuccessfully. I could never manage to figure it out. So I don't know about you, but it exhausts me just to recall this history, the years of it, the lifetime of this. It is so tiring to think that this is how I have slept and not slept. for 54 years of work. In the 1980s, when I worked for what is now one of the largest Planned Parenthood affiliates in the country, we had clinics spread out all over Northern California with abortion services in many of them, which means we were picketed and harassed every single Saturday in every single one of them. And that was my job. I was the director of public affairs, was to kind of oversee what was going on, involve the police if we had to, and the constant presence of aggressive anti-choice protesters. At that time, for many good years, among the senior staff women who worked for Planned Parenthood, I was the only one with children, and I was certainly the only single parent. My executive director, Heather Saunders Estes, who had to head up this large multi-million-dollar enterprise internally and externally as we were under almost constant attack, did not have children at that time. She later had a daughter. But in her childless state, this is Heather and her husband's Fred's life every weekend after she came back from whatever riot was going on. They would, nap. They would do a little exercise and they would stay in their PJs all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and they would nap. Resting from the work pressures, resting from the threats, resting from the actual invasions, the chipping away of access, of basic rights, every single year, chipping away for all the years that I worked for them. She tells me now about following her retirement after 37 years, when she had assumed that what we all expected would be the election of Hillary Clinton as president, and a resulting pendulum swing in the right directions, that she could finally really rest. And for a few moments, there was what she calls a quietness. A quietness. In her poems, which is what she does now, she's turned into a poet. She writes about the teams of invaders clutching chains and locks, and the lingering smell of fire bombs, about being a culture warrior who finally came home alive. We both did finally come home alive. Recently, in a local CD store at the checkout counter, I found a flyer, "Make abortion legal, safe, and free," asking me to sign a petition, fight back for abortion rights. After all, it's only been a few months since the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned. Something I will tell you I had seen coming for all those years. It was not a surprise to me. It was like waiting for the shoe to drop. When I saw that flyer and I saw the plea to get involved, I nearly wept. Not only for the massive injustice that they were fighting, but because I am still so exhausted for all the years in the trenches.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. As reporter Rita Raphael simply puts it, the sleep deprivation crisis is real. It was real to me. How many of you feel like you have any sort of sleep deprivation? Yeah, it's real, isn't it? It's real. It hurts us physically and emotionally and even financially. As former Huffington Post executive editor Ariana Huffington tells us, there is a human need for rest. There's a human need for sleep. Her wake-up call was a day in 2007 when she was on her cell phone at home checking emails when she passed out, fell, and woke up in a pool of blood with a broken cheekbone and a cut over her eye. You see, she had been working for 18 hours a day building the Huffington Post website and taking her child, who was a senior in high school, to visit colleges with no breaks at all. After weeks of medical tests, the doctors came back with the root cause. And what do you imagine it was? She was exhausted. She was exhausted. It had taken years to go from her Greek childhood in Athens, where her mother taught her that those sleeping were to be revered and their rest undisturbed, to being a college student and a worker in London who, as she writes, bought into the cultural norm of sleep deprivation essential to achievement and success. It is both unique and universal, intensely personal and yet common to all. It gives us strength, energy, power, and creativity, but I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that because I was in a do more culture. make it and do more. In her book, The Sleep Revolution, she talks about, and I love this, rekindling the romance with sleep, making sleep something that is welcoming. A sleep revolution, and on a pretty large level, starts with nap rooms. Starts with more flexible work hours and work climate that wants to retain employees in a healthier environment. There are specific how-tos in her book, but the essential message is that rest, that sleep, is just that, essential for all of us. Essential for all of us, but a matter of centered urgency for Black, queer, artist, poet, theologian, and community organizer Tricia Hersey, who comes, in her words, from a legacy of exhaustion. Her mother was exhausted from working. Her grandmother was exhausted from working. Her father, who worked from the railroad, died young from racism and exhaustion, she tells us. She fiercely calls for us to center rest in a capitalist, white supremacist, ableist, and patriarchal world. Hersey is the founder of the NAP Ministry, which got its start here in Atlanta. Her organization examines rest as a form of resistance and promotes it through what she described, and I like this a lot, curated sacred spaces for the community to rest via collective, nurturing napping experiences, through immersive workshops, through performance art installations, and through social media. Her just-released book, Rest is Resistance, is what one reviewer has called an exquisite blueprint for rejecting the demands of modern capitalism, centered in Black Christian liberation theology, wherein God is always on the side of the oppressed. Her NAP ministry disrupts and pushes back by connecting to the liberating power of rest, daydreaming, and naps as the foundation for healing and justice. That sound good to you? The foundation. Nap and resting, the foundation for our justice work. If we don't have that, we can't do the work. In her words, my commitment to seeing every toxic system that interferes and degrades the divinity of myself and every human on the planet dismantled is because, and I love this, the bamboozlement of grind culture has been revealed via rest and slowing down. We must rest, we must heal, and we must resist together. That's the core of her NAP ministry. There is no rest is resistant movement without Blackness, she writes emphatically. She observes that a legacy of exhaustion resides somewhere in all of us, but specifically resides in the bodies of those with melanated skin, her description. In those who are descendants of plantation labor and those marginalized, this exhaustion is deep. And how many of you see it on a daily basis? So I saw it as I traveled to Detroit this last week via MARTA to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. I saw the Black workers on the packed early train. Almost all the people on the train were Black. The Black workers at the airport, handling the baggage, issuing the boarding passes, checking the ID, staffing the shops, cooking the food, cleaning the restrooms and the planes. Black workers. The Black workers who kept things going during COVID, despite fatigue and despite their great risk, who keep the holidays going as well. The commercial part, working in the box stores, delivering the packages at all hours of the day and night. Hersey tells us, however, that she has spent the entirety of her life as the NAP bishop, and that's her name for herself, the NAP bishop, answering this question: is the NAP ministry just for Black people? The answer is no. Black liberation, she says, is a balm for all humanity, and her message for all those suffering from the ways of white supremacy and capitalism. The rigid idea that justice-centered Blackness, born from the lens of Black liberation, is only for Black people, she writes, is limiting and false. Our bodies, all of our bodies, are sites of liberation. Our bodies are sites of liberation, all of us. All of us are urged to believe that we are worthy of rest. It is our birthright. It's our birthright. All of us, and especially in these times, the LGBTQ, Jewish and migrant communities who are directly being targeted by persistent and lethal domestic terror threats, we all need rest, and it's our right. All of us, and especially in these times when the Collier Dictionary word of the year is, has anybody else read what the word of the year?
Yes.
And if you counted them, I think I've covered all three of them by now.
Gaslight.
It's a perma-crisis.
Yeah.
Perma-crisis. Defined as an extended period of instability and insecurity. COVID, war, climate extremes, a sense of impending doom. We are all exhausted. We're all exhausted now. Rest is a human need. Rest is a human right. We are all exhausted, and we all have the ability to turn into her suggestions. So I'm briefly going to share them. And what I want you to do, if you're willing, is to raise your hand if you rest in this manner. Okay? Can you do that? Because all of us have the human right to rest. Do you close your eyes ever for 10 minutes? Raise your hand if you do. Do you take a longer shower in silence? Do you meditate on the couch or somewhere else for 10 minutes? Do you daydream by staring out the window? Do you sip warm tea before bed in the dark?
What?
Sip warm tea in your bed in the dark. Slow dance with yourself to slow music. Experience a sound bath? A sound bath. I don't know what it is. Experience a sun salutation? Do you take a 20-minute timed nap? Do you pray? Do you craft a small altar for your home? Do you take a long bath? Do you take regular breaks from social media? Oh, good. Do you not immediately respond to texts and emails? And finally, do you deep listen to a full music album? You do that. If you do that, then you're quite a ways into what will be a good napping and resting practice. This week is the annual, I'm right here with the human rights. This week is the annual observance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which the U.S. finally signed in 1992, the common standard of achievement for all people and all nations. Tricia Hersey lifts up the right to rest as a basic human right, and she says we should add it to the existing 30 articles, the right to rest. As I finish this sermon or talk or whatever we call it, I will be embarking on what may well be a permanent stop or extended sabbatical from the pressures and the exhaustion of 54 years of researching and composing and speaking on deadline. A time of resetting, hopefully of resting, at least a nap or two. Tricia Hersey proposes that we consider taking 30-day actual Sabbaths or sabbaticals, taken from my root tradition of Judaism, an off-grid experience, a time of deep calm and connection. It might sound good to some of you. To me, it sounds daunting, but I'll try. I take with me her final words, in rest is resistance. We must be more human. We want to bathe and soak in our own complexities. We want to take our sweet time. We want to tap into the bottomless well of wisdom and surprise waiting for us inside a portal of rest. Our battle cry and mantra is this: we will rest. We will rest. We will rest. We will rest. Thank you.
I only have 2 community announcements. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring forward? All right. Jill Ruhlman has an art sale today, 502 Page Avenue. She's wonderful, and it's right down the street. Sunday, December 25th. Enjoy our holiday potluck /kiddush. We will set up after the Circle of Life celebration of life. Salads, main courses, snacks, breads, as well as cookies, cakes, and pies. All are welcome, accompanied by a human being. Mary, are you organizing that?
Well, it's a membership deal, kind of thing.
Okay, so are you doing any sort of write down what you're bringing
Well, I
or
think it might be a
planning?
good idea to do that. I didn't do that for Thanksgiving, and it turned out quite well. So